In this episode, we are breaking down Disneyland Forward. We are halfway through the approval process. We're going to talk about it, break it down, speculate. We are going deep. We are deep diving into Disneyland Forward today. We got Michael Ebba. We got the Italiano up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. We are talking all about Disneyland Forward. We are halfway there, everybody. We got the approval to move forward. Next month, the final vote. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about, we're going to speculate as to what we think might even be part of this plan in terms of the theme parks and what have you. But before we dive into that, I want to introduce my fantastic panel. We got the Italiano in his, as Kiki and Lucas says, in your militant pixie duster decor. I'm really digging it, George. Really digging it. If you can let everybody at home know, look at you, man, with all that special access. You know what I'm saying, dude?
I know. It's hey, if you got it, flaunt it.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. And
everybody at home, you know, the new trend right now are those big Stanley Cups, right? Everyone's walking around with those big ass Stanley Cups. You know, I'm doing it a little different. You know, I got a big ass mug. It's like a ramen bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how I'm doing it. But Ebba, it's great to have you back, brother.
Oh, gee. Thank you so much for having me on, man. It's good to be back as usual. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. If you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Michael Ebba. You can find me on Twitter /X at Michael Ebba 1991. And you can find me here on OG55, where we talk about theme park studios, everything nerdy. You got it right here, guys.
Absolutely. Oh, I like that. That's smooth.
Damn, bro. Smooth. You sound like you've been doing that for years.
Right?
Yeah. Well, hey, he made it look easy, right? Damn, bro. All right, let's rock and roll. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about this, man. There is a lot to discuss about this. Okay, so this is from the OC Register. Disneyland development plans approved by the Anaheim Planning Commission. The project still needs overall city approval. It says here, the Anaheim Planning Commission Monday night gave its approval for Disneyland's on-property expansion plans, the first of two needed votes to allow the company to grow its theme parks with new attractions and hotels. The project, dubbed Disneyland Forward, would give Disney more flexibility to choose where it builds new theme park areas, hotels, dining, without expanding beyond its existing footprint, and in return guarantees the city at least $1.9 billion investment into the resort over the next decade, along with more than $100 million for city streets, parks, and affordable housing. It says here the planning staff had recommended the commission approve the project and move it forward. The planning commission didn't take into consideration the financial aspect of the project. Their vote was about approving zoning and planning changes for Disneyland Forward. Now, George, I'm going to start with you. There's a lot to dive in here. We're going to kind of break this article down because there's a lot of interesting information in this article. Overall thoughts on this first major milestone for Disneyland Forward?
First off, I just have to say, because as you said, there's a lot to dive into, and we'll break it down as much as we possibly can. But the overall, I'm very satisfied. I'm very happy. I'm relieved that the first stepping process is completed to move on to the Anaheim City Council. Not to say I wasn't sweating bullets a little bit, because I mean, this process was about 6 hours long for the entire, the duration of it. But it turned out great. I mean, it was a win for Disney, and honestly, it was a win for Anaheim too. There's a win for these businesses, for the residents, and I feel like that Disney made the proper approach this time around. I felt like the first time when they were trying to greenlight the Eastern Gateway project, I felt like Disney was being a little bit arrogant in a sense, where it was like, we're the top dogs, whatever we say kind of go when we want it. It just kind of gave off that vibe, even if that may not have been their intention. That's where it just kind of gave off the ignorance to not think about what's around them.
Well, and it's like the old saying, you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. This time around, they were much more collaborative. They did those little pop-up coffee things, and explained to the residents and local businesses what this project was, and kind of sold it to the city. You know what I'm saying?
And it paid off.
And it paid off. It absolutely paid off, And it was a much smarter approach. They learned their lesson from the Eastern Gateway. And it's looking like, it's going into April 16th with momentum, and I think it's going to get passed. But Ebba, what are your overall thoughts before we dive into the nitty gritty?
Yeah, no, I mean, my thoughts are the same as your guys's. I'm very, very happy. I mean, I don't think there should be any Disney park fan that should be happy about this, especially if you're more local of the Anaheim area for Disneyland. Like this has been like a long time coming, guys. Like this is a very, very exciting step in the right direction for Disney. I'm really happy the way Disney really approached this. This has really worked well for them. Obviously, we got the 5-1, approval. But I'm very happy. A Disney fan, very happy because now we're halfway there. We have one more vote to go, and this is gonna be so exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there was one person on the panel that voted no on it. Everyone else voted yes on it. So
and that was kind of interesting to me. I mean, because even to his approach on it, he showcased that he's a Disney fan. He's a Magic Key holder. He goes once or twice a week. What have you? He had a reservation that day. But what was interesting, because not necessarily that he wasn't against it, I felt like he was more against it because for whatever reason he wanted to drag it out an extra 2 weeks.
Yeah, I respectfully disagree with that decision. I mean, this has been, and that's why we just talked about it. That's why Disney did these coffee, little camps where they would explain the stuff to the residents and the local businesses to explain what this was. And I was a little frustrated too. This gentleman's name is Perez, and he seemed like a really nice guy. There's no issues, but I just respectfully disagree. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, we've had 3 years. We've had a long time now with Disney explaining what this is to the city.
What more is there to digest?
You want 2 more weeks of what exactly? Like, what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? So that was a little frustrating. Thankfully, yeah, he had his voice. He voted no, and that's fine. But thankfully, the other members voted yes. It was a pretty overwhelming vote. I mean, overall, you know what I'm saying?
And as far as I know, OG, Governor Gavin Newsom and the mayor of Anaheim, they're pretty much on board with this overall.
Well, I don't know. Okay, I haven't heard anything from the mayor, but I know she's a Democrat, though. And I know that Gavin Newsom, though, is on board. He did the whole photo op thing with Bob Iger in front of the concept art and everything. He basically endorsed it. Now, when you have the top Democrat in the state, Gavin Newsom, basically endorsing this thing, the mayor's not gonna buck that. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna go with it. So, look, all signs point to yes. Now, does that mean Disney's gonna get every single thing? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I'm kind of thinking there'll be a little give and take. And that brings me actually to the next thing here. It says they also did not vote on whether the city should allow Disney to buy some streets from it, including Magic Way. Now, Magic Way is the street that in between the Pixar Pal parking structure and the Disneyland Hotel entrance. It's that street. It's mostly used for Disney. I mean, by and large, they didn't vote on that. It says here that the city council decision at an April 16th meeting, when the council members are set to vote on the entire project. So that will be discussed at that time. Now, when I was saying that Disney might not get everything they want, it's little things like this here and there that the city might say, you know what, do you really need the street? Do you really, you know what I'm saying? So some of this stuff might get denied,
So was it the intention that they were going to vote on the streets, and they just decided not to? They decided to leave it to the Anaheim City Council, or was that the route it was supposed to go anyway?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about like the Anaheim City like logistics of that whole thing. It could just be like a routine thing that they do with stuff like this. I'm not really sure,
because that was the one thing that was confusing. Like after it was over, it was perfectly clear. Obviously, Disney won, that case for Disneyland Forward. But I was kind of scratching my head, and I thought, well, what about the purchase of Magic Way? No one said anything about it, so I wasn't sure if that was included with the passing to move on to Anaheim City Council, or if that was like an entire separate like meeting that they would have to go through.
Yeah, so that meeting on April 16th, they'll vote on that Magic Way thing. Now we'll see. Look, anecdotally, I'm not an Anaheim local. Anecdotally, when I'm at the resort, it seems like mostly Disney traffic on that street. It's not like Harbor Boulevard or something.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there's a good chance that they're probably going to approve it, but you never know. I mean, that's a big deal, to sell that to Disney. So.
And I've been to Disneyland quite a few times now, but I'm still not familiarized with, like, as far as like the streets. Like, there's certain streets that I do know of, but I don't know like the connections where if you turn off of one street onto this. I don't know any of that. I only really know Harbor and Catella, to be honest with you. I do know of Walnut and Ball Road, but I didn't really spend a whole lot of time on them. But just to say, hypothetically, if Disney does not get approved to buy Magic Way, would that hinder of them in the overall maneuvering of Disneyland Forward in a sense? Like, would it have to where they'd have to change up their plans a little bit just to kind of make it work around the road?
I think they want that street so they can get rid of it and they can basically build maybe theme park expansion over it, and it would be more seamless with other planned expansion pads. But if they don't get the street, okay, well then it just goes into the expansion pads. You know what I'm saying?
Now, Magic Road is the road that connects the back of where the existing parks are into the expansion pad, correct?
It runs right in between the Pixar parking lot and the entrance to the entrance to Disneyland Hotel, and then it goes straight across and it butts up against kind of like the tram route.
Okay.
So yeah, and also you can make a left and go onto the 5 freeway and what have you. So yeah, but it's that street though. If you're not going to Disneyland Hotel, or you're not, you know what I'm saying, or the parking, it's really not used a whole lot by residents. So we'll see. But here's the thing too. This is interesting. It says here a development agreement would guarantee Disney that it would build its project without city rules changing in the future. In return, Disney would give the city $30 million for affordable housing. That's really cool. I think that's awesome. $8 million for parks. Okay. $10 million for sewer upgrades near the parks, and $40 million for streets Disney proposes to buy from the city, along with the $1.9 billion investment commitment. So that's interesting. The affordable housing thing, I like that because it kind of goes into like what we're talking about. You're more collaborative, less combative. You're not this is kind of what happens with these big companies like Walmart, right? They move in and they take over and stuff. It's good that Disney's working with the city and trying to better the city and the standard of living over there with the affordable housing. I think that's really, really good. And number one, optically, it's good, obviously. But I just think even like just on a morality level, I think it's great that you're investing into your community again and doing that. What do you think about that, Ebba? Do you think that's a decent idea? I mean, you think that's a smart approach for Disney to do this kind of good? I don't want to say goodwill, but like to sort of reach out to the community and kind of. It's not all about just the Mouse House. It's about actually like helping the residents a little bit.
So can I just go back a little bit?
Yeah. Do your thing.
So for Magic Way,
Ebba, it's a blank canvas, baby. Just paint with it. You know what I'm
saying? All right. So for Magic Way, okay, that connects to Disneyland Drive, which then that's where, like we just said, that's where the tram goes past, right? But if you notice, because I'm looking at the map right now, right behind that is Critter Country. So they could expand if they had that roadway or those roadways. They can expand probably Disneyland out more that way or add.
Okay, so that would make more sense because when Bricky showed his potential thoughts on the possibility of Arendelle being built in the current Stitch parking lot. By the way, shout out to Bricky. Love the channel, love the content, man. Keep it up.
Oh yeah.
That because you had mentioned about Critter Country, that's where that one walkway path would lead to, where it would connect Critter Country and then walk across into Arendelle. So whether or not that parking lot becomes Arendelle or becomes something different, I wonder if that's where it would have to decide that if they own Magic Way, if they could just do a walking path straight from Critter Country, or if they would have to build a bridge that would have to kind of maybe go over the road.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. If they get Magic Way and they can get rid of it, it'll just make it a little easier to integrate everything a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Now, if they don't get it, it's not impossible. It will just take a little bit of maneuvering to kind of go around.
I think, honestly, it would be kind of interesting if they did do a bridge route, because if you kind of look at Arendelle in the movie, to enter into the kingdom, I believe you have to walk across a bridge to open up the gates. You know, so I think that would be kind of an interesting, like, where the storytelling begins before you even enter the land.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Ebba.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and just to kind of follow up what I was saying was back to the very, very first point. Sorry, OJ, I knew you asked a question about this.
No, you're good.
But yeah, I do think with the city council, because even here in this like 6-hour meeting that they had, there's going to be some give and take, like you said, right? Like, you know, Disney's not going to get probably everything that they want, but I would say they probably maybe get like maybe 90% what they want.
I think so.
Because the things like that, the city is going to want it, because I see this as more like now this is like a more of a negotiation stage where it's like, okay, what are you putting in? Here's what we're willing to give, and so forth, and then kind of go back and forth. That's just my assumption. I don't know. I never watched one of these before, so
yeah.
But I think that's how it's going to come down to. It's like, okay, Disney, you want this, we'll give you this, but in return, we want this. So, for example, we might get to this later, but with the whole firework thing, I think that's like a prime example of like kind of a give and take there. But anyways, OG, back to your question here about the housing stuff, right? I think it's very good for Disney to be investing back into the community, right? Because right now they have a lot of support actually from like the residents of Anaheim, which is fantastic. So if they can, you know, put some money and finances back into the community, right? You're building up, you know, your residential areas and for housing or whatever. And I think people are really going to like that who live there and will support you more.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It more flies with honey than vinegar. Go ahead, George.
And that was the one thing that kind of irritated me with a few of the people that gave their opinion, which they're entitled to their opinions, you know, and concerns. Absolutely. But it just kind of irritated me when one person in particular had said, you know, the amount that Disney was giving of $30 million is like, how is that going to, you know, in a way benefit to the amount of how much a person is, you know, able to afford, and they need a lot more money, which that's true to be able to make up more affordable housing. It's probably going to take more than 30 million. But I think this person missed the point that it's $30 million that the city of Anaheim doesn't have to put out towards affordable housing. Right. Disney is giving 30 million as a donation. It's like when you watch like one of those telethons that even like back in, I'm like, this is even before my time, like the Jerry Lewis telethon, that, you know, when they had a specific number goal, you know, and someone would call in with a donation, obviously it's not going to hit that mark, you know, right away. It has to add up to that certain amount. So every little bit, whether it's 30 million to 3 million, you know, whatever Disney was willing to put out, it still showcases Disney wants to help the city within the community. And I think it's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm 100% on board with that. Now, here's the thing. In terms of Magic Way, here's the plot twist, right? Anaheim spokesperson Mike Leister said in an email, the street is expected to stay as is until the 1997 bonds are paid off, which could come by 2030. Now, 2030 sounds like a long time from now, but really it isn't. It's like, what, 6 years from now? Not that long. But it says here, it says here, quote, we expect the road to stay open for access to the Disneyland Hotel, and there's a requirement that there still be access to the south end of the Pixar Palace parking structure via Magic Way, Leister said. But years from now, it's possible the road becomes more of an access road among properties like you see elsewhere on Disney property today. Paradise Way next to Pixar Hotel is a good example. So it seems like they're still, even if this gets approved, it's still we're still kind of working their way through the whole Magic Way thing. Yeah, I'm going to get into a theory later on today, because with the Magic Way thing, Disney might wait like for any kind of expansion of Disneyland into this area. If they have to wait till 2030 to really get this Magic Way thing settled, that might be way back. That might be like back burner for them, kind of. You know what I'm saying? And I'll explain maybe an alternate kind of theory on that. But here's the other thing too that's interesting. It says Disney would also not be allowed to convert the newly renovated. This is big. This is huge. Disney would also not be able to convert the newly renovated Pixar Place Hotel into a timeshare for 20 years, according to the development agreement. Quote, with timeshares, we see hotel stay tax adjusted each year to ensure that they reflect what we're seeing with traditional hotels, Leicester said in an email. We welcome both timeshares and hotels, with the interest here being that the hotels, we see hotel stay revenue increase in real time as rates go up. Now, here's the interesting thing here. Disney loves the DVC timeshares, right? They're in love. They're in love with that stuff. Does that, in your opinion, George, because I know you're pretty privy to this stuff with the timeshares and all that, DVC, I think that spells bad news bears for Pixar Hotel's future. Would they not rather build a new timeshare and not have to go through all the, wait 20 years to convert this thing?
Absolutely. I don't think Disney at all is going to want to wait 20 years to convert a hotel that's already on the brink of destruction, so to speak, that they had to retheme it. Yeah, it's definitely when they reskinned it to the Pixar play, it was definitely temporary. I feel like they had really, I don't even think they had any intentions on keeping the hotel anyway, but I think after getting this kind of news, that just kind of set it in stone. They probably, in my opinion, they'll probably demo the building, flatten it, layer it out. They'll have more room for theme park expansion and to be able to then build a hotel that can have the requirements for licensing out for timeshare as part of DVC. Then that can give Disney more leadway based off of Disneyland Forward of where they want the new location for the hotel to be. So it's out of the perimeter of future theme park expansion.
Yeah, and you can see that right here on this map right here. This little purple spot is the Pixar Place Hotel, right? And all this yellow is the hotel district. But you can
sitting there like a cavity.
Yeah, exactly like a cavity, right? And then we got to do a root canal. And then here we go. Right here is healed, right? We did a root canal. We fixed it. No, but here's the proposed district and overlays. You can see this is all orange. This is all theme park. Now it says here though that the hotel would be theme park west overlay, which is more mixed use. That's kind of interesting. But I don't know. I just have a feeling they're going to opt to just bulldoze that.
And here's the thing. Now that to me doesn't really make sense because for them to theme it to Pixar, you're not going to have a Pixar-themed hotel mixed in with another IP.
You'd have to make it. Well, you kind of have to make it Pixar, or you have to find a really clever way to hide that massive building. And how do you do that? It's so. I mean, it's look, it's a decent. Like you can see here, it has decent acreage. It's not like a small piece of land. I mean, this is pretty much like, I don't know, like half of Pixar Pier, maybe even more than that. It's a decent sized space, but when you have that tall building there, you're going to see it. So you're right, George. What are you going to do? Like you're going to have to almost bulldoze that thing to. I mean, unless they don't give a shit about the sightlines, which I'm a stickler.
That's your cringe point. Yeah,
that bothers me. If we had Pandora and we had that ugly hotel looming over Pandora, that would make me really mad. And people always tell me, oh, gee, you're just hard on Universal with the Super Nintendo World, the Comcast building. I'm really not. I mean, I am, but I'm just equally as hard with Disney.
You've preached it so many times on this channel of how you feel about the sight lines over the pier.
The pier with how you can see the convention center from behind Pixar Pier drives me nuts. I would bulldoze that entire pier and build something that encloses the whole thing. But that's just me. People love their Incredicoaster and all that, so I don't want to cause any shit, but
but here's the thing too, because just to say hypothetically, if they were to keep the Pixar Play Hotel, you then would have to build a land that would kind of integrate with the hotel, where recently, like for example at Tokyo Disney, they have the hotel that's going to be built in within Fantasy Springs.
Right.
But what benefits that is the hotel is being built correspondingly to the land.
Right.
So this is a hotel that's already there, so it's not really going to match anything.
Right. So here's the thing: when it says theme park overlay, which means like mixed use, what that might be, that doesn't necessarily mean the Pixar Place Hotel is staying either. That could be that it's going to get grazed, bulldozed, and a new hotel will rise that's themed to the existing land around it. Right.
Right. And
then you can do like your timeshare and stuff because it's a new hotel. I would assume they could do that. So that would be interesting. Now, Ebba, what are your thoughts on this in terms of the future of the Pixar Place Hotel?
So that was my question. Either I'm misunderstanding what that comment is, but I don't understand why it's such a bad thing that it can't be a timeshare. I mean, the DVC people, I know you guys love your DVC. I personally don't really care for it, but I mean, just bulldoze the hotel and make it something else. And you mentioned on top of theme, OG, right? The theme of California Adventure is California. So they're going to have to probably make another California hotel if they build one. Make another version of like a California hotel type, unless they're planning to change the California theme to something else if they bring Pandora into DCA.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Or the other notion of that too, which I know a lot of people are going to have like mixed feelings on this notion, but one of the IPs that was mentioned in the possible proposal was Toy Story, where there's a possibility where, especially on the brink of Toy Story 5, depending on which actually is very interesting because I found an article today and I actually think I sent it in the DMs that Toy Story was one of the top, I think, fourth highest revenue for the Walt Disney Company. It was Frozen, Toy Story, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. And like over the years, over the span. And I mean, with that and with possibly how big Toy Story 5 is, and with that being an IP that was mentioned, could that potentially be a West Coast version of Toy Story Land that then goes off of the pier?
Well, we'll see.
But I think that's a little bit too much of Toy Story. That's where I get the issue.
But see, if they did that though, then they would have to keep the hotel and then expand the DCA from like where the hotel is, and expand it into where the hotel is at. Because on the right side for the proposed district, you got that mixed use space, so that's where the hotel could come and play. Now you have the existing hotel that is now sitting within the theme park.
Yeah, it would tower over what George is saying would be a Toy Story Land. And I tell you right now, if they go I'm expecting immersive, top tier quality Disney stuff with this project. And I'll be very critical. If Disney trots some shit out like Toy Story Land, hey, it's a cute land. I love Slinky Dog. It's a fun attraction. But you're putting way too much work into getting the zoning to put that there. Okay. I mean, I'm sorry. It's Bugs Land with a coaster. It is, and and then especially after Ken Potrock, president of Disneyland, went over to Asia and checked out Zootopia and Arendelle, and you're going to go with that? I would be very disappointed if they went that route, dude. I would be so mad.
I would too, actually, believe it or not.
Well, because you look at the space where Disneyland is at, right? Look at the space all surrounding it, right? Even if the amount of space they do get approved for, they're still landlocked in that part of Anaheim. So they're going to have to, of course, as we discuss, the Imagineers get very creative. They think outside the box to how to utilize that space. But that space, OG, is going to have to be very quality stuff. We can't have another DCA 1.0 pop up, man.
You can't do that. Now, interesting theory. I want to bring this up, right? So Tom Corliss on his show, and he only did like maybe 5 minutes of this on his show, but I thought it was actually very surprising to me. He was saying this whole thing about expanding Disneyland out and expanding DCA out, and this whole thing is a dog and pony show. He was saying it's all kind of like smoke and mirrors by Disney, and the real motive behind all of this stuff is a third gate.
Okay, so
go ahead, Ebba. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go for it, Ebba.
All right, so if that's the case, WTF? Because honestly, Tomorrowland needs work in Disneyland. DCA needs more stuff to do in it because right now, like what I told George and George told me, it is not worth a full day admission of a ticket to that park. I'm sorry, it is not. I love that park, but if I'm paying over like $100, $150 to go into that park, it's not worth it. You need to add more and more quality into that freaking park, man. Do that. Make the same quality levels, same type of great experience as Disneyland, and then make a third gate. Do that first.
No, they might do that. I mean, well, because we don't know Avengers e-ticket yet. You know what I'm saying? They might add that. They might add a little thing because this is also long term. This is the Disneyland Forward thing is like a 30-year.
Right, yeah.
So the third park might not come. It probably won't come in the next 5
or even if they want to do the third theme park first, I'm okay with that. My issue is the location, because back off what me and Michael were talking about over the phone is if you use that southwest area that's right across from DCA as the potential area for the third theme park, then DCA is effed, because there is no potential land left to expand. So the park is going to be left as is. My whole thing was, I'm all for a third gate for Disneyland. They need it. Disneyland needs the third gate more than Walt Disney World needs a fifth, any day. But my eyes were on the Toy Story parking lot, because I mean, OG and I were talking about that for a long time. That's a decent portion of land that could easily become a third gate, and then you would still have Disney would still have their cake and eat it too by having the expansion pad for both DCA and Disneyland in the coming years. Because again, as we were talking about, it's a 30 plus year project. And speaking of the Toy Story parking lot, if someone could confirm, because I can't really see what it's titled as, the top part where it's like the stripes of the blue and the orange, what does that signify? What does that represent?
I'm not. It's I believe mixed use. From what I understand, I don't know exactly what, though, to be honest with you.
Okay,
George.
So I wonder if, I mean, I don't know, if that could be potential for the parking lot of the third gate, and the remaining of it is the park itself.
It could be, but this right here, they have a lot of parking. It says here parking district. So there's a lot of parking here on this Eastern Gateway thing.
Okay.
So that
would still cover for that. Okay, I got you.
And then they might have something that takes you over to this. This is a pretty significant. Would agree with you, George. If they were going to think of a third gate, this is where you should put it. Now, here's the thing too. We keep hearing about this Avatar experience. Iger called it a land, but then they went back to experience. Yada yada yada. No one knows what park it's going into. They never committed to Disneyland. They haven't really committed to DCA. Maybe Tom Corliss is right, though. Maybe the goal is to build a third park, and that would make sense as to why we don't know which park it's going into yet, because it's going into a third park, which is yet to be announced.
No, that would make sense. Absolutely.
So maybe they build a third park in the Toy Store parking lot, and then they use these. Is it the Simba parking lot? That they can then still expand DCA into.
Correct, and then they can expand DCA into this, and they can do whatever they want. Yeah. It's possible. We're all kind of theorizing here. But the thing with Tom, though, was interesting was that, and George, you watched it as well. Mm-hmm. He didn't just say that was his kind of like inclination. He said this is what he believed and what he was hearing from people in the know as well.
In the know. Yeah, that was his words.
So that's interesting that he's hearing that, though. You know what I'm saying? And I know people have their issues with Tom. I get that. But it's like, that's
knowing Tom, he's really one that... He's not one that likes to mention something unless he's close to being sure. You know what I mean? He can give his opinion, but he's one that really doesn't like to vocalize something unless he is backed up with some sort of proof before saying it.
I mean, that's what he's hearing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's interesting to me that, because it kind of does track, though, because we're hearing these rumors about this project with Pandora. There's no indication of what park it's going to go into. It makes sense that Disney would be kind of keeping that close to their chest if it is a third park. That's why we're not hearing anything about which park it's going into, because it's going into something that isn't even announced yet.
Not until D23.
Not till D23, baby. Exactly.
Which is also funny too, because I don't know if you guys remember back it was maybe a couple months ago. This actually made, I believe, the local news, like in the Anaheim area or California area, like whatever. What is your KT? Is yours KTL or something?
KTLA, Channel 5.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. So they were talking about, and Disney mentioned that these 3 IPs that, and I think it kind of got overlooked because now everyone's thinking, okay, what can they do? But I think it's funny that it made the local news after Disney made that announcement, and it was Coco, Frozen, and Black Panther.
Oh, right. I remember hearing about that.
So I wonder if like those are going to be the first 3 headliner
Disney,
IPs.
if you don't put Coco in DCA, I will be so frustrated. That Latin culture belongs in that park. It has to go in DCA. It has to go in DCA. And you have to go big with that property because that property would translate beautifully in a theme park experience. But and Ken Potrock went to Asia. He checked out Frozen, Zootopia and stuff. That's why there's something about this third gate too. Because a lot of these properties don't fit in either park.
And honestly, and that's why they gave the 3. So sorry, Mike, not to cut you off, just really quick before and that's why it feels like it's funny that they gave those specific 3. You would have Coco for DCA, you would have Frozen for Disneyland because Bricky kind of already set the table for that. If that is true, Disney didn't confirm.
But Bricky makes a really good case. He really does.
And then Black Panther, and you kind of look back and you think to say, well, okay, where would Black Panther kind of fit? Which it does tie into a little bit with the California thing. But if they're going to go the Wakanda route, then that's where it comes back to a third gate, kind of tying into Pandora, because you would then have Wakanda, you would have Pandora, and as you were saying, OG, you do something like the Worlds of Disney, where you could kind of have a splash of any kind of IP, and it would fit.
Well, you can do the Worlds of Disney theme park, which would be Disney's Epic Universe or Disney's Islands of Adventure, basically. And you can have the studios of the Walt Disney Company represented in this park. So you can do a Wakanda Land, you can do a Pandora, you can do something Pixar, something Disney Animation. You can do that. Now, here's the thing with Wakanda. Yes, technically, Marvel has a presence in DCA, but the issue is if you're going to do Wakanda, you need space. So where are you going to put Wakanda? You can't, because you already have a Marvel land on the other side of DCA. You don't really have any. Well, yeah, I guess you have Hollywood land if you want to bulldoze all of Hollywood land.
I was going to say that, like bulldoze that entire thing and then put Wakanda in there. Although, if you're talking about a third park, so sorry, OG, to cut you off. By the way,
no, you're good. You're good.
So with Pandora and Wakanda, right? Those 2 kind of themes are very similar to me in where they have a lot of like nature and kind of forestry in it.
Yes.
So maybe if you also added in, I don't know if this will work, but if you added like Encanto in it too, because that's also very like in that South American kind of forestry kind of nature style. What if their third park gate, they're kind of looking at a Animal Kingdom-esque type of park?
That would be very interesting if it would be like an Animal Kingdom park without it actually being Animal Kingdom. In a sense, more like of a nature, outdoorsy kind of. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I mean, that would be. I fell in love with Animal Kingdom. You want to bring any bit of that here? I'm good with that. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, we have a space limitation. I mean, what you guys have in Florida, you do amazing things. But if you can bring even just a sliver of that to California, I would just absolutely go bonkers for it. You know what I'm saying? So this is interesting stuff, man. And that's the thing. And you can also build. Look, you can also technically, if you wanted to, they could technically build a third gate here. Now, I'm not as bullish on this idea. There's one pro to building it here, and that's the location, because now you have the 3 parks kind of close together.
True.
But there's more going against it than going for it. The things that are going against it, number one, is you have hotels scattered in it, right? So Pixar Place Hotel is iffy. It's probably, like you said, it's probably on the way out, especially since Disney can't do a timeshare for 20 years. They're not going to put up with that shit. You know what I'm saying? But then you have the Disneyland Hotel, which is old and outdated, absolutely, but they have been remodeling in it, and they just added the DVC tower. Right. So that sort of, for me, that sort of solidified that hotel for the near future. So now you have all this stuff mixed in with this park, and it's a weird layout. It's this weird rectangle-y park. I just don't like it there. I would prefer Disneyland and DCA expand into those areas and do Toy Story a lot for more traditional, like, theme park.
I agree with you. Now with the proposed plan, well, with the orange space that would be the expansion, how come it showcases the Pixar Play Hotel, but it doesn't showcase the Disneyland Hotel?
That's interesting. Yeah, because for the Pixar Place Hotel, it's theme park overlay, mixed use.
But
I don't know.
But the Disneyland Hotel is not showcased; it's integrated with theme park space.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. If they didn't build that DVC tower, I would have said they'd build it. Yeah, but like with that tower, how do you? I can't see them doing that.
Now, the Toy Story parking lot where the orange is, that's all the space, right? Everything surrounding it. That's all like the current existing like Good Neighbor hotels surrounding it, correct? Like in the gray.
So I was actually going to ask OG, would you mind if I shared my screen?
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all.
So how do I do that?
There should be on the bottom, it says share screen.
Okay, there we go.
And then you just pick it. And I'm sorry, I'll address your question, George, while we wait for Evo. So you said in terms of this, hold on, let me get back to that screen real quick.
Yeah, the Toy Story parking lot. So all the orange, that's the current parking lot, and the gray around it, those are like existing where the existing Good Neighbor hotels are, or is that?
That's where I'm confused, because I think the gray is the parking lot too, because the parking lot, we've done it on Google. The acreage is 75 acres.
Yeah, that's why I was asking you, because when I looked at that, I thought that looks much smaller than what it shows on Google.
Yeah, and just a reminder, this is about zoning. So this section right here might be zoned. They need the zoning for this particular section. The rest of it might be okay, where they got what they need. But this part needs it, whatever. So that could be that. It from what I understand, the Toy Story parking lot is 75 acres, which is about the same size as DCA minus the Grand Californian. Now, there it looks smaller. There it looks like a 30, 40 acre thing, Yeah. I don't know. But it is a significant property, so I don't know why that whole thing is not included. That is kind of weird. So we'll see. Ebba, you ready for me, brother?
For some reason, I can't share the tab I want to share.
Okay. Well, what do you want to? Maybe I can help. What do you want to ask exactly?
I was just trying to share that section of Google Maps for what we're talking about there, so that way we can see a more realistic picture.
I can absolutely bring that up for you. No problem, brother. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I bring that up.
So, what do you think about that, Mike? As far as, well, actually, let me ask you, because I didn't actually ask you. You were off saving the city. That you had to come back. When you look at the proposed Disneyland Forward with the rezoning, if you look at where the expansion pad is, they showcase where the Pixar Play Hotel is, but they don't showcase the Disneyland Hotel. It's integrated in the theme park space.
Well, and also this too. If you look at the right side for the proposed map, Magic Way is orange. If you look at the left map, the current one, it's white. Meaning their plan is to own that street. Obviously, we talked about that, but their plan is to own that street, though. So in the proposed plan, it's orange, showing that, hey, we're going to have control of the street as a theme park space.
Interesting. I never really paid attention to the street. That's interesting.
Yeah, whereas...
Oh, go ahead, Eb. I'm sorry.
I was saying, and whereas Disneyland Drive on both maps, the Disneyland Drive they're both white, meaning that they don't have those actually as part of the theme park space, which I found interesting.
Now this is interesting here. This is okay. So Ebba, I'm glad you actually brought this to my attention. So this is actually like the Google satellite imagery, right?
Yeah.
This is the Toy Story lot. Okay, now this is interesting. So this is all Toy Story. I believe all this is Disney right here. And I believe you guys can see my cursor, right? You guys can see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe all this is Toy Story. All this is Toy Story. Mm-hmm. I thought, I could be wrong, I believe this is all Toy Story as well. But for some reason, this part right here wasn't included in that zoning. This little
it's just this part, the one where the cars are at, correct?
Right. So that's a weird one, bro. I don't know.
So I'll say that part, OG, where your cursor was, on the lower part,
right here.
Yeah, right there. So I've parked in that spot before in Toy Story. So I know that's part of their parking lot.
Unless as you said, OG, maybe that's part where they don't need to rezone it. Maybe it's good to go.
Right. And that's what everyone has to remember here is that these are not plans necessarily. This is zoning. They're trying to get zoning changes. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they already have theme park zoning for that. And what I've heard for years is that the Toy Story lot is zoned for theme parks, but maybe the portion that they're trying to sell to the city, they're trying to elaborate on that. Like it even shows it's like a mixed use overlay, whatever. So that's why that section is highlighted, but the rest of it they don't need it. You know what I'm saying? They already got what they need.
And then that northern strip of parking lot, like right above, right there. Yeah, that's where it was also showcasing where it had like the orange and blue
the
mixed use. Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, Ebba.
Sorry, guys. So here's my kind of concerns. I don't know if they're already zoned for this because if you look, there's already some businesses on the outside, on the perimeters of the parking lot, and then to the right you have these apartments. Homes. So are those going to stay there? Because if those were gone, now I'm not saying to bulldoze them because people lose their homes, but or if the city gave it to them, but if you had that chunk of space, that's a lot more theme park space you would have. Because now looking at this, right? I mean, yeah, you could fit a park in there, but I mean, then for parking and stuff, like how actually big would this be considering the type of bigger show buildings they're making nowadays for the bigger dark rides, maybe bigger coasters? Like how much like theme park space for attractions do you think this thing would actually take up, and with walking paths and stuff like that?
Go ahead, George.
Well, I think for me, because they would need a lot more, I feel like, indoor show buildings for this area because of the residential, especially for like the eastern side that's smacked up like right against where their houses are. They would probably have to be more indoor, and then maybe they could have a lot of outdoor stuff to the left of the property. But at the same time, if they were planning on doing where they were suggesting of making this a dining, shopping, plaza thing, which I think is completely ludicrous to have this much space and turn it into another like a West Coast Disney Springs. That is something I would never do. That's a wasted opportunity.
Look, I am telling you right now, Disney's not going to do that. I can eat crow. I'm not gonna, I don't have any special access. You know what I'm saying? I don't have brunch with Bob Iger in Malibu. Contrary to what people believe. I don't.
Oh, you sure? You sure? I thought I saw you with Bob Iger one day walking out the door. You know what
I'm saying? That's between me and Bobby. You know what I'm saying? That's between me and Bobby. No, but I don't have any inside knowledge. But to waste this many acres in the middle of Anaheim on a mall? Are you kidding? That would be a malpractice. They would be dumb as hell to do that. It is stupid. It's absolutely stupid because you can buy a couple hotels in the surrounding area and do your Disney Springs thing for 15 or 20 acres. You don't need this many acres for a mall. No. That would be absolutely insane.
No, my only thing back to what I was talking about was like, okay, so you have your attractions, right? Maybe they might want Disneyland and DCA, they both have like a water show basically, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, okay, you look at that plot of land. You have to think about DCA has bigger walking paths now because it was built more in the recent times, whereas DCA it's a lot smaller. So now going forward, you're going to want to have wider walking paths, especially because now your theme parks are super in demand now, right? So I'm trying to think how much acreage are just walking paths going to take up with restaurants and retail and then your attractions. So, because my issue with DCA is, again, great park, but the kind of stuff we have in there, like stuff by Pixar Pier, there's a lot of like Carnival Eve rides that are there that just
take up a lot of space.
they take up a lot of space, and now like show buildings like Rise, even Pirates of Haunted Mansion, they have giant show buildings. So it's like, how much stuff can you really fit in this land? Now, I agree, don't turn it into a Disney Springs or whatever. But I'm just kind of concerned that how much actual stuff will be in this new park if it's built there.
Yeah, no, that's a huge concern. That's a huge concern. It's hard. I think here's the thing that you do with a park like this size, assuming we have the 75 acres to work with, right?
Right.
Which I think we do. 75 acres. I think the DCA 1.0. What are you laughing at, George?
No, sorry. I just really thought, well, there's your answer on it being Animal Kingdom, because you'd have your 7 attractions, and there you go.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing with DCA 1.0, it was the way they designed that park was stupid as hell.
Yeah.
It was like you said, there's a lot of carnival stuff, a lot of like stuff that takes up a lot of space, and it's not really super immersive. With this third park, what you do is I think you have to be much smarter in your allocation of that space. Mm-hmm. You have to because Disney, aside from DCA 1.0, Disney's actually really good at space allocation. When you see how they worked in Runaway Railway seamlessly without losing a damn thing in that park, how they all we lost for Galaxy's Edge was some backstage area and a barbecue place, and a petting zoo. That's it. They're really good when they want to be. If you build this third park, Disney, you got to put that space allocation cap on and really work it in there. If you want to do like say a Westcott, you know what I'm saying? Right. Just throwing it out there.
You had to throw that in there, didn't you?
Just throwing it out there. If you want to say, hypothetically, if you want to do Westcott, you would have to be really smart about it. Now, I don't really care so much. This is just OG. I'm saying everyone's mileage varies. For me personally, I don't really care. I don't need 1,000 rides. I'm not like a super ride guy. Like the Animal Kingdom is my favorite. Animal Kingdom is my favorite park, so that'll tell you right there how much of a ride guy I am. You know what I'm saying? If you put in 3 or 4 biggies in there that blow your mind, and a couple like filler stuff, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm good. So, but everyone's mileage varies. Some people are just they're aggressive with the rides. They want ride after ride after ride. I'm not that guy. I'm more of an atmosphere guy. But you're right, Ebba. I mean, it's a DCA size park. They're going to have to get smarter with how they allocate that space. They're going to do a better job than Eisner did in 2001. Go ahead, George.
It's funny that you brought up Westcott again, which, by the way, when you mentioned, getting rid of some backstage area and the ranch and the petting zoo, I do have to say, shout out to the goats. I miss the goats.
Oh, dude. Come on. I love the goats. That's the one thing I missed the most out of all of it was the goats. They were amazing.
Yeah, I love the goats. But
they're the goat.
They're the goat. The goat's the goat. When you mentioned about Westcott, I think that would be interesting, because if they incorporated, like with their initial attention, what Westcott was going to be, whether it's using the continents or countries, kind of taking that off of Epcot, where you don't do the Future World style. You just have like that World Showcase aspect where that can kind of fit into where it becomes then the third park. You still kind of have your outdoor venues that would be like they would have going to utilize that for shopping and dining anyway, but it would be the overall theme of walking into each individual country. Right. And then maybe you could have just a certain amount of countries. You don't need like 11 or 12 of them because, of course, Epcot's massive, but maybe you could have, maybe 5 or 6, depending on how big you want the areas to be. And then you could have maybe, as you said, kind of shorten up the amount of rides, where you could have maybe like 1 to 2 rides based on the IP of that continent or country. Right. I think that would work.
Oh, I think it would work. And with Westcott, I think it's money in the bank for Disney. I'm telling you, Disney, if anyone from Disney's watching this, I'm telling you, with the Drink Around the World stuff and the food festivals that Epcot does, if you can bring that over here with a Westcott, you're going to make a lot of moolah. You're going to make a lot of moolah. And here's the thing, too, is like, obviously Disney's going the IP route with Epcot. So if they were to build a Westcott, you would still go the IP route. If you had Asia, you can put your Mulan, or you can do that, Raya the Last Dragon, whatever you want to do. I'm not a stickler with that stuff. If you want to do that, that's fine.
See, that's where it would kind of be interesting if they did continent wise, because that way you could do different locations within the continent that you could add in multiple IP. So you can have basically mini lands within one section of a land, sort of like what they're doing with Fantasy Springs, where then if you have like an Asian style part of the land, you can incorporate Mulan, you can incorporate Raya and the Last Dragon, you can incorporate or even like with Mexico, you can do Coco, you can do the Three Caballeros.
South America, you mean? If you do the continents,
that's
right?
right.
So South America, you can do Coco.
Yeah, Coco and Encanto. Up, you could even do like with the Paradise Falls.
Right.
And stuff
there's so much potential with that. There's so much potential there. I don't know. It's too perfect, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think if they do anything, it's going to be like their version of Islands of Adventure, basically, where it's the worlds of Disney or something with like basically 3 or 4 lands, like Arendelle, Zootopia, Pandora. That's what they're going to do.
Can I ask you both? Not even just speaking on Disney. I mean, but Disney was like the spearhead leader of this. I don't really expect it to come from Universal, but do you guys feel like theme parks version, like with just like a single-handed vision of like a specific thing, like when you take Animal Kingdom, it's based off of conservation, animals, nature, it has like one tactic theme of like what they were going for. And same thing with Epcot. It was about like innovation and world culture. It was based off of. Do you think theme parks are kind of getting away from that now? They're just kind of just throwing in like whatever is popular.
Well, I think that they should get away from that. I think Disney, like for example, I think you want to be as vague as possible with the park theme. I think Universal is doing the right thing, right? For example, with like Epic Universe, Epic. It is like adventure, Adventureland. It's very vague. Adventure it could be just about anything.
Do you think that's what's hurting? Do you think that's what's hurting DCA right now?
Well, and that's sorry, OJ, and that's why Disneyland, the name is so perfect because it's Disneyland. All of those stuff falls under Disney, so you'll get whatever they have.
It's a vague thing, exactly. Even Animal Kingdom is a little too specific, I think. You know what I'm saying? So I think getting away from the park theme specifics and being a little more vague is probably going to help in the long run. So
because it just makes more sense, OG, right? I mean, like at Disneyland, you got Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Adventureland, Frontierland. I mean, yeah, those are all kind of themes, but you can like work around those, right? Instead, if you call Disneyland like Disney Frontier Park or something like that, right?
Exactly.
And that was my kind of point on the couple of videos before, where that was kind of my concern with DCA was the California theme, and actually, Soarin's not California, like it's not the temporary California theme, but it's been Soarin' around the world for how long now? So that's not really California anymore.
Which, speaking of Soarin', I know I'm kind of going off topic here, but I thought that was so cool that Patrick showed up at DCA for Soarin', and he gave his spiel. He got people loaded onto the ride.
Yeah,
I thought that was so cool. Like that is classic Disney. That's like classic Disney right there.
I love that. But what I really want to see, though, okay, I love seeing him. He was great. Patrick was awesome. The kid who gives him the thumbs up on the what happened to him, though? I want to see that kid. He's probably in his 30s now, you know what I'm saying? But like, I want to see that kid. Like, where is he at? Bring him back.
Exactly. Just real quick. So that idea I had about, not idea, but my comment I just made about Soarin', about how it's around the world now and not California. That actually wasn't my own thought process. That was from the girly nerd. So shout out to the girly nerd. That was actually her comment she brought up. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that before. You're right. It's been around the world, not California. But anyways, I just like to give a shout out to her because that was her comment.
That is an interesting integrate without even people realizing it, because they say, why are you adding Soarin' around the world when the park is still themed to California? Oh, but wait a minute, I thought everyone thought it wasn't based off of California, and but that might be a small integration, without even us subconsciously thinking about it, that they could be slowly transitioning it out. But really quick, I don't know if we were going to get into the topic or if it was going to be done, but I wanted to ask and clean up my words, OG, if I got this mixed, because there was like a lot going on in that meeting. But from what I understand, they have Disney has the 10-year agreement for the 1.9 billion investment for the resort. But if they hit the threshold of 2.5 billion or more, then
2.9.
I thought it was 2.5.
I'm pretty sure it's 2.9 or more.
Oh,
okay, so 2 billion plus.
2 billion. Yeah.
Whichever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the two. After they hit like that amount, then they are not obligated to pay back the city $5 million.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a measly like penalty if they don't.
Do you think Disney would be just willing just to give the $5 million if they did, or do you think that's really an incentive for them to kind of utilize the notion of saying, you know what, we're already up to 1.9. You know, if we go another billion, you know, like
and that money, baby.
money. No, well, that's the thing. I think that Disney's really bullish on Anaheim, and I think they're bullish, especially right now in Anaheim, because Florida is kind of a shit show with DeSantis. You know, that whole thing is a mess.
Yeah.
And look, whether you like DeSantis and what he did or you don't, reality is there's a lot of uncertainty in Florida right now. Right. So that's why I think Disney's focusing, it seems like, on international parks and California right now, is because of that whole thing over there. Now, I'm not saying that Florida's never going to get anything new. I'm not saying that. They will, but it's kind of in a holding pattern right now because they kind of want to let the dust settle and see where this whole thing shakes out.
Luckily, there's enough there at Walt Disney World as a whole, as a resort, that can hold them over for a little bit more time, where Disneyland, it's crucial that they expand. They have to.
Yeah, and sorry.
Oh, really quick. Just hold your thought real quick, Michael. And I have to say this statement. I can't believe I'm saying this. I thought hell would freeze over that I said this, but I actually said this on the phone to Michael a couple of days ago. I will understand the notion of DeMaro's position, that why he is kind of stretching out, you know, waiting for, you know, the Anaheim City Council to, you know, make, you know, their final vote. Because if he was to spend any kind of money now, it comes out of the funds to be put into Disneyland Forward. So why spend money on something that you could do something small when you could do something big? If that is DeMaro's mindset. Hopefully that is. DeMaro, I'm throwing you a bone here, bud, you know, just saying. But this is where it's going to show, because at D23, all the chips are on the table.
Yeah.
This is where he's going to have to prove himself, because if he doesn't, then that showcases that he's just being a stickler with the money. And I don't think Disney is going to want to risk everything that they just put into to get the Anaheim city itself, the businesses, the community, everything, doing those workshops. I don't think that they're going to want to risk it all because DeMaro doesn't want to spend. And that not only doesn't hinder the fact of the potential 1/4 running of CEO, God help us if he did, but that he's not going to get it. But that also puts his current job at risk as chairman of experiences.
Yeah, he needs to deliver. We say it all the time, but he needs to deliver. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. I mean, what the whispers that I'm hearing is Disney is ramping things up low key behind the scenes. Is that the whispers I'm hearing? And things are going to get ramped up. Now, there's a lot of naysayers and doom and gloomers and the grifters and all that fucking bullshit, and they're going to tell you no.
Can we just call them the doom buggies?
There you go. There you go. Yeah, because they bug. You know what I'm saying? No, but I'm telling you, they are ramping up, and we got stuff coming. Now. Florida is a question mark for me, though. It is. I will be honest with you, because of that DeSantis equation, at least short term. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Anaheim, we're seeing we're seeing moves being made. We're seeing moves made overseas big time. We're going to talk about it in another video with the international, with the Mandalorian rumors and things like that. But Disney's obviously making moves here. It seems like the only resort they're not making moves is Florida, and that's not by coincidence. It's because of the political unrest right now. DeSantis has made it very difficult for a company to be excited about spending billions, over there. Well, unless you're Universal, because DeSantis is fine with Universal, but with your Disney, I could see why they're hesitant, at least until things settle down. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I actually, what's funny is that I was telling George before the planning commission made their vote, because I could see the writing on the wall, and Disney said during this that their goal pretty much is to they want the Disneyland Resort to be a multi-day, multi-night destination, and to me that screams AKA Walt Disney World, just on the West Coast. And I was telling George, like, before that, I was like, I feel like that's what they're doing, because all the moves Disneyland has been doing, it feels like that, right? Like the Magic Keys being unfavorables, all the reservations still, all that bull crap, right? Like, there's these things they're doing where it's like, okay, they're really trying to kind of not push locals out, but they were trying to attract more touristy guests, right?
Yeah.
And just by their actions, I could tell right away. And then with that comment, I was like, that's why I tweeted out. I was like, haha, I knew it, because that's what they're trying to do.
That's what they're trying to do, man. Yeah, exactly. They did say that, Ebba. They did say they're trying to make it a more multi-day tourist destination, and they should. And people get so bad when I say that, because they think it's like an either or situation. It's not.
Yeah.
Just because Disney wants to make Disneyland Resort more of a tourist destination doesn't mean that as a local you're not welcome here. That's not what it is.
Right.
It's just that they want to attract more hotel occupancy, get people from out of country. You know what I'm saying? Get that family from Australia, get that family from Japan, get that family from Europe or whatever.
And I think maybe that's what locals' mindsets is. Maybe it's like, not that the locals feel unwelcome, but I hate to really make it sound like this, but maybe they don't want to welcome a whole lot of tourists because they feel like that's like their domain. That's their, and it's like they have to kind of get out of that, because it's like Disneyland was made for all. It's our land. It's our land,
It's for everybody. Right. And why not share that? Why not share that with the world? You know what I'm saying? And and I've always said that Disneyland as a park, especially, look, it's a beautiful thing. It's Walt Disney's first theme park. You know what I'm saying? A lot of love went into this thing, and he wanted it to be inspiration to all the world. Look on the plaque. It doesn't say an inspiration to Southern California locals. Okay. It doesn't say that. He wants it an inspiration to all the world. Like, let's encourage the world to come back to Anaheim, because let's be honest, with all these other parks that popped up all over the world, you had Tokyo, you had Walt Disney World after Disneyland, you had all these other resorts popping up around the world. It did diminish Disneyland as a world class destination, so to speak, right? Where it's like people from Japan, they still come to Disneyland. I see a lot of Japanese tourists and stuff, but it's probably less than it was before they got their own resort, though. You know what I'm saying? So let's encourage the Japanese. Let's encourage people from around the world to come back to Disneyland. Let's live up to what Walt wanted this park to be, a global inspiration, and not a Knott's Berry Farm where it's like, California residents. And there's nothing wrong with Knott's Berry Farm, because that's what it does. But Disneyland was not built on that premise. Disneyland built. Go ahead. Oh,
sorry, really quick. And people internationally are not going to travel all the way out to California for Knott's Berry Farm. They're gonna do it for Disneyland.
Well, yeah, and Knott's, and here's the thing, I love Knott's. You know what I'm saying? I got a season pass for Knott's. Yeah, Knott's is great. And shout out to Theme Park Casual. He got me into Knott's. But the food. Oh god, the food.
Honestly, Knott's Berry Farm, I think out of all three, between Disneyland, Universal, and Knott's has the best food.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
For like a themed / amusement enterprise, and they have the best food.
And if you're gonna do it, do the dining plan, because that's just like $30. You can eat like every 90 minutes. It's crazy. But Knott's isn't trying to, like, I'm not dissing Knott's when I say it's not a world draw, like a global draw. It's not. Knott's isn't trying to be a global draw. It caters to Southern California, and that's what it does. But Disneyland is not that animal. Disneyland has always been built on the idea this is a global place, you know what I'm saying? And people just, you know.
Yeah, well, I think again, this goes back. Sorry, George. This goes back to our issue. What I retweeted that one tweet, and it goes back to the pass holders now Magic Key holders. That there's kind of like this entitlement attitude, like
Yeah,
going
big
around,
time.
and those people they go so much. And again, you can live your life however you want, but when you go to the park so much, day after day after day, week after week after week, you start nitpicking, complaining about every single little thing. You're not enjoying the park anymore. You're seeing stuff that normies don't even give a crap about, when they were enjoying their stay. And it's like, guys, this isn't your house. Like, I know you say Disneyland is like my second home. I mean, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's not your home. Your home is like down the street. But this place is for guests to come and enjoy from all across the globe, not just you guys
Welcome
here in
to my
California.
house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Ebba, you quote retweeted today Theme Park Duo, which Theme Park Duo is a friend of the channel. We do love them; they're awesome over there. But Theme Park Duo's tweet today was basically saying, "Hey, as a theme park community, are we becoming too nitpicky? Are we bitter and jaded?" And you made a great quote retweet where you were saying, "Yeah, like basically we kind of are. Like you have to step back a little bit." And I would agree with that. I think, look, like you, Ebba, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live their life, but if you're going so much that the place doesn't make you happy anymore, then maybe you should step back. And there's nothing wrong with that. No one's saying that like you can't go back ever again, but like maybe if it's not a source of happiness to you anymore, and you're finding yourself going and just being mad because of Genie Plus and because of Lightning Lane and this, that, and the other. It's like, if you're that fucking mad, then go do something that makes you happy. Life is too damn short. I'm sorry, it is.
And me personally, I'm not trying to down anybody, so I'm not trying to say it in this manner. So try to take it with a grain of salt of what I'm trying to say.
So what you're saying is, George, is you're trying to say it about somebody.
This today. Yeah, you're good. You're good. But I have this. Okay, so when it comes for the vloggers, and nothing wrong with vlogging in the parks, I get it. If it's your hobby, if it's your lifestyle, go for it. Do whatever makes you happy. But I wish that theme parks would kind of go back to when people go there, they go for the purpose of enjoying a theme park. They're not going to have a camera in their face 24/7, keep on recording. And yes, it is very much entertaining when you put on YouTube and you figure out these different things like what's this, what's that. But I mean, like, I'd rather just go and experience it myself. Yeah. And then I can then come back on the channel here and report it. And this is what I appreciate about the channel of Orange Grove 55 is we are like a breaking news, reporting, reviewing type of channel where we go and enjoy the parks, live it in the moment, and then we bring it back to the OG 55 studio.
Yeah. And I think both can exist, but I do think that there should be. And again, everyone's life is different, you know what I'm saying? Right, but I do think there should be, like, if you are doing that, that's awesome. We have friends who do that stuff. Absolutely. And we're huge fans of their content. Mm-hmm. But you should have those moments where you go and you don't bring the camera and you just fucking go and you're in the moment with the people you love, right?
Exactly. And not even just the vloggers, even like TikTokers, Instagrammers, like they'll just go into the parks just to get a backdrop, just to make a post on their social media, which is great. But it's like that's their main goal when they go to the park. What happened to the notion of going into the park, as you said, OG, with your friends and family, your loved ones, have fun, be together? It just seems like the social media aspect is like taking over.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Now, we're not saying that the vlogging is bad, but like there should be balance, right? And everything, and that's not just with Disney. With anything that anyone does in life, you need to have that balance, right? You need to be able to balance this stuff out, right? So it's tough, man. It's really tough. But there is. I think that, and I've been saying this for a long time, but I think when people, not just vloggers, but just regular people that are just going, Magic Key holders, this, that, and the other. I think if you go too much, I think it kind of breeds a little bit of little nitpicky, little jadedness, because you're going so much. Then when you were there, you're bored. It's not the same dopamine hit as it was 100 visits ago. So now you're bored. So what are you doing? You're sitting on a bench and you're noticing every little freaking thing that's wrong. And then you go back and you tweet about how this was down and this is chipped and that light bulb was out. It's like, For me personally, I go to this place to have fun. And if I get to that point where I'm going to these places and I'm freaking miserable and I'm looking at everything wrong with it, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to keep going. I mean, I'll go back eventually, but I'm going to take a break. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Emma.
Oh, sorry. Just two things. So to George's point, what was it? Crap, George. What were you talking about? I lost my train of thought.
Oh, like of
The
like with like the vlog, the balance, like with the vloggers, the Instagrammers, TikTok.
Yes. So those exact people that you're talking about, from a business perspective, that's the people Disney don't kind of really want in there, not because they don't want them, but because they want more of the people that are going to be there all day spending money on the merchandise, on the food, all that stuff, right? If you're going there like for like 1 hour to like do your pictures or whatever, you know,
And that's what's hurting the Magic Keys, and I think that's where Disney is, why they're keeping the reservation system more so for Disneyland. And I think eventually, I do think like the ticket, like once Disneyland Forward, like definitely now is moving forward, you know, no pun intended, but I mean, you know, we still got one more hurdle, you know, I don't want to count our chickens, but I'm very positively optimistic that the Anaheim City Council is definitely going to approve this. Otherwise they're going to have all eyes on them, like
Tupac,
like exactly, like flies on shit. I just got that. Sorry.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Jeez. Wow, it took me. Okay. Now where was I going with it? But yeah, so I feel like, you know, that's where, you know, once it expands and grows, I feel like the day ticket holders won't have the reservations, but for some reason I feel like the key holders, I think the reservation is, especially for Disneyland, that's going to stick around for a while.
Yeah. And then to OG's point, OG's point, when, you know, on this past trip that we had with Universal with Mr. Wizard, theme park wizard, you know, when I went there, it's been years, right? And you know, I went there. OG, I didn't really complain about anything like that was broken or dirty or whatever. I mean, just those one tarps and, you know, in Nintendo Land and Nintendo World, but that was it. I wasn't like scoping anything. I'm like, oh my god, like, is this dirty? Is this like whatever? I had a blast, you know. So I mean, it's like, it's that type of thing where I think that if you're not having fun, you're there all the time. Again, you can do what you want, right? You know, it's your life, but you know, maybe find another hobby for a little bit. You know, stay out of the park, and then, you know, come back when you feel more refreshed and like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go there, have fun, right?
Exactly. And this isn't, like I said, like Ebba, you said it perfectly. And this isn't like to tell anybody what to do or whatever. It's just like, hey, you know, just like kind of like how our perspective on it, how we see it. You know, this is how I approach everything in life. Like if I'm not happy with something anymore, I'm not going to do that thing anymore. Like, that's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand. Like, and look, help me understand, folks. I see people going a lot. I see people going a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And the folks that are going a whole lot are complaining the most. Okay. That doesn't make sense to me as a person. If I'm not happy doing something, I'm going to stop doing that thing. Or a step back from that thing. You know what I'm saying? So to go all the time and then come back and everything sucks and sucks and that sucks and a miserable time, lightning lane this, lightning lane that, that's fine. And believe me, Disney, there's plenty of criticism with the whole Genie Plus lightning lane thing to go around. It's a broken system. But if it's bogging you down so bad, step back. Like I would, if I was going to a restaurant all the time and then the food started getting bad and the service was bad, guess what? I'm not going to go there 3 times a week then anymore. That's what people do, right? When you don't get the thing that you want anymore, you back off and you do something that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know. It's crazy.
Exactly. You know, but yeah, I mean, you know, like I was telling George, like I'm still debating because OJ, I was telling you how, you know, I was like, yeah, no, I'll plan to get a Magic Key in the future, but now I've backtracked myself, and now I'm saying, and I've been telling George a lot, I'm like, I'm looking on maybe not getting one just because, you know, here's the thing. Once Disneyland Forward takes place, right? How expensive are annual passes going to be 30 years from now? If they even exist at all. You know, are they going to be $3,000? You know, and like, like in 30 years, like how much is this going to cost? And at some point, relative to how far you are and how much money it is, and we know how wages really haven't kept up with cost of living and all that crap, especially here in Southern California.
Right.
Like, how much am I going to have to go, especially with a reservation system, to justify just the cost alone of having an annual pass to the park?
Yeah, because it kind of like it's kind of it's a circle, kind of like what, because okay, so you spent a lot of money on it, but now that you spent a lot of money on it, you got to justify the purchase. So now you got to go more and more and more to justify the purpose, and it leads to this whole kind of cyclical thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my issue is, because with me, I have to spend on airfare, hotels, on top of paying for the pass itself. And then I got to spend for food, for, transportation, Ubers back and forth. So it adds up. So that's why when I travel out to California, that's why I'm out there for a little bit of time, because I can't just come in for like 2 days and then leave. Like, that's a very expensive 2 days. But again, that's where I feel obligated by having my pass. But as Michael's point was, he was saying that it's already like the highest tier Magic Key is already up to 1650, so within the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, that could range between $2,000 to $2,500. I don't know. I'm not saying like that may be a little bit astronomical, but I mean, especially with Disneyland Forward, with more things to do, and it's going to become more of a vacation destination, those passes are going to go up significantly. They're not going to stay at 1650 forever. So it's like for someone traveling cross country, I would then have to make 15 plus trips a year just to justify the price. So, and then what? I'm not doing nothing else. It's like, I enjoy doing a lot of other stuff. I want to do more Disney cruises. I eventually want to go out to Tokyo Disneyland. I want to go back to Nevada. It's like, I want to do more stuff, it's
exactly. So if you're stuck in that circle, as you mentioned, you can't do anything else because you're spending all your money on that, and you're making all those trips worth it just for that alone. And now George is missing out on cruise line, Paris, Tokyo, other states, whatever, and because now you're pigeonholed to your pass. And the guys, we know every time when Disney pretty much builds anything, prices go up. Tickets, passes, parking, hotel, everything just goes up. So in 5 to 10, 20, 30 years, how expensive is everything going to be?
Even think about the Good Neighbor hotels. Can you imagine what their nightly rates are going to go up to when Disneyland Forward gets approved? A lot of people aren't thinking about this. This is great for Disney. This is great for us fans. Yeah. But we also have to look at the bigger picture, too, of what this is going to do. This is going to boom the economy for the city of Anaheim. Perfect. Great. That's what we want. But if it's already expensive now, you also have to take into consideration of the price value that it's going to go up once this is all done.
Oh, it's going to go up. It's going to go up. And I'm telling you this right now, too. When Epic Universe opens, you can expect hefty increases. We saw actually here in Hollywood, we saw hefty increases for the park, and I believe also for the annual passes when Harry Potter was coming online.
Mm-hmm.
Comcast
same for Orlando.
Yeah, Comcast ain't here. They're not doing you a solid. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna make their money, believe me. And they know the demand for this thing is high for Epic Universe. They're gonna raise those prices.
Yeah. Really quick, kind of on the topic but off the topic. I just have to get this out there because this is something I've been wanting to say for how many conversations we've had, and I haven't been able to get it out because I keep on forgetting. So now that I can remember, and we're kind of on the topic, but we were kind of going back and forth, like what they should do for DCA. Do they stick with the California theme? Do they change it? Like, what do they do as far as the thing? So all the times that Michael and I have been having conversations on the phone, I am known for having Georgisms, which are like my terminology, my words, and everything. Well, Michael has quite a few of his own, and I just kind of figure that if they were to if they were to just do something with DCA, they should just change it to Disney Ebba Adventure Park. Because honestly, they could have everything, and I quote, and this is coming from Michael himself, that they just tear down, and I quote, the fucking goddamn piece of shit theater attraction, put in the Guardians of the Galaxy over here instead of over there. title it the Disney California and everything else adventure park, and then you could do something with the 1650 fucking whatever pass.
That's awesome. Brilliant. We'll send it to Deborah right now. I'll get it approved. That's awesome. That's awesome. Fantastic.
I wrote these things down because as he and I were having this conversation, like he couldn't like remember like the names of stuff, so he would just like put his own flair to it, and he just like we were just talking nonchalantly, and he was referring to the Fantasyland Theater, and he's like, you know, that fucking goddamn piece of shit theater attraction. I was like, the Fantasyland Theater. He's like, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
and I had to write it down. So anytime like he comes up with this shit, I have to write it down.
Yeah, Ebba, you're funny, dude. Ebba's a good guy. We love Ebba. We got to do a whole Blue Sky episode with you, brother.
Oh man,
just deep dive. You know.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Absolutely. But gentlemen, it's been an honor talking shop with you. We got into a lot of stuff today. Disneyland Forward. We got into this whole look. A lot of people don't talk about this whole kind of this locals culture because it's like. No one wants to look inward ever. You know what I'm saying? And I'm a local. I mean, pretty much, you know, I'm like an hour away, but pretty local. We all are except for George, but like,
Okay.
well, George is basically a local. He comes down here so much, you know? But here's the thing. It's like, I think as fans, we should look inward a little more and understand like, okay, what are we doing? You know, like, what are we doing here? Is this, are we like, even like what Theme Park Duo was talking about today on Twitter, like as a fandom, are we becoming too jaded? Are we becoming too nitpicky? I think it's okay to question ourselves a little bit here and there, not absolving Disney of any blame or anything like that. No one's saying that Genie Plus or Lightning Lane or Disney's perfect. No one's saying that, but I think it's okay to look inside and be like, hey, you know what? As a fandom, are we doing it right? You know what I'm saying? Are we acting weird? Okay, well, you know, let's look inward a little bit. It's okay to do that. It's okay.
So just real quick on that point, I think in this instance we are. So you look at Mickey and Minnie's. What happened? You had that tape that they put on to separate people for like their own seats. People complained about that. They took it off. Now they're complaining about people are sitting next to each other. So fandom, which one do you want? You know, like you can't have it both ways, guys. You know, you either want to have your own separate little seat with ugly tape, or you want to have it off and everybody can fit in together, so that way capacity can be, you know, higher for the attraction.
Sounds like my Friday nights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, well, and that the whole thing with the tape, I gotta say, the whole thing with the tape was stupid. I gotta say, because obviously they're testing something that, you know, like the seating arrangement. Obviously, that's not a permanent solution to what they're going to ultimately do. But you're right, Ebba. People are now complaining that, oh man, I'm bumping shoulders with the person next to me. Have you been on Secret Life of Pets over at Universal? I was on that ride. I felt like I had to buy George a drink. I mean, I was so close to this guy. Okay, I felt like I had to take him on a date after this.
I was ready for a cigarette.
Oh my God. Oh God. You know, it does the conga and I hit the guy next to me. It's like, oh, get over it. Go to Universal.
Has anyone ever taken a flight on any airline? I mean, that's worse. I mean, you're like especially if you're in a middle seat, you know, like on Southwest or American Airlines, you're like this, like a hot dog. And it's like, I mean, come on.
Hot dog. See, George, I can voices too, not just you.
There you go. Nice. That was pretty good, OG.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I've seen you when we were on the cruise. You, because they let you draw on the tablecloths. You know, they permit it. They actually encourage you. I tell you what, he drew a lean, mean Mickey Mouse. I actually have the picture of it.
George, we gotta see you, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Let me see if I can. Let me just see if I can just get it.
Oh, and before we go, guys, I want to bring this up too. So I also want to bring up the firework situation.
Okay.
Yeah, you did mention that.
Yeah. So the fireworks, apparently, so from the planning commission, they're pretty much telling Disney that aerial fireworks are okay for, you know, DCA and Disneyland, but for like outside of that, aerial fireworks will not be permitted, but they can have low level fireworks. So if they have a third park, maybe they can have low level fireworks. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming it means like when you have the castle, the fireworks shoot off the castle probably.
Right. That's exactly it.
So I'm thinking, what if they do this, right? Disney's like, okay, because OG, you know that we've been talking about, people are saying, oh, they don't do the drone stuff because it's a no fly zone or whatever above Disneyland, right? Which I think is total BS because I see stuff flying over there all the time. But if they have a third park, maybe if let's say that's true, right? Let's say it is a no fly zone for whatever reason, right? Let's say now the third park they can have low level fireworks, lasers, and like let's say water if they do have that, but then they can now incorporate drones because maybe now that space is not a no fly zone probably. I mean
Right.
it'd be close to Disneyland,
Sorry.
but maybe that park in particular they won't need to have a no fly zone and they can have the drones like we saw in Paris.
It could be, and this is the cool thing right now that's happening with the entertainment space at Disney is that it's not fireworks aren't the only game in town anymore. Like you said, we have fireworks, we got projection mapping, which I think is very impressive as well. We also have the drones. So if they do that third park and they're limited in regards to what they can do with fireworks, it's not the end of the world, like you said, but there's options now. We have options, and I agree with you about the no-fly zone. I'm not an expert on the no-fly zone. I'm not going to pretend like I am, but anecdotally, I'm at Disneyland and I see helicopters and stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
Maybe they get special permission for certain things. I have no idea, but it is a little weird. I don't know. I see stuff flying around all the time. So we'll see. We'll see if we ever get that drone show or not, but it'll be interesting.
Oh, and then sorry guys, another thing I want to bring up. Sorry, OJ, I know you want to end the video.
No, you're good. You're good.
But I was talking to George about this, and this is something that it doesn't like as a fan, it doesn't make me like, oh my god, what the F. But I'm like, okay, I wish they would do that. And this kind of goes to your point, OG, about like the sightline stuff. George, you know what I'm talking about. It's the 360 theming around stuff. So you know how when you go to Galaxy's Edge, like when you go to a park, you see like all like the metal poles and everything like behind like the rock.
The black spire lollipops.
Yes. So I believe in one of the other requirements for Disneyland would be they would need to cover up and have have theming on both sides. Inside the park and then also on the outside of the park, and which I actually agree with that because I think that when you see like metal and wood on the outside, it can kind of take you out a little bit of the kind of believability of the park itself. Again, for me, it's not like a huge deal, but I would like to see a 360 theme going on. So like with Cars Land, I would want to see like theming on both the front, and if I was outside the park, see rock work on the back as well.
Yeah, well, and I think that also, I believe I could be mistaken, but I believe with this Disneyland Forward thing, they address some of those kind of issues when it comes to like if things facing the residents and things like that.
Right.
And that's important. That is important. I would agree with you because, like, look, as a theme park nerd and that someone that doesn't live in Anaheim. Whatever. If the backside of Cars Land's ugly, who gives a shit, right? It's not gonna, right? But as a resident, though, if that's the thing you see when you open your window, that sucks, So I hope, like Ebba, I agree with you. I hope Disney does address that, and they do, they're more cognizant of that going forward.
I think for me, if I'm seeing the backside of something, I'm pretty much okay with it.
Yeah. Well, it depends, though, right, George? It depends.
Yeah, I guess so.
It depends. But gentlemen,
really sorry, Yoshi, really quick. I sent you the picture of your drawing in the DM. I don't know if you could bring it up.
I can't right now, but what we'll do, we'll save it for
okay, so
show.
I sent it to you, and then you could.
Yeah, we'll save it for another show, and we'll that'll be fun. It'll be fun. Like we'll bring it up. But thank you both for joining today, talking shop. All kinds of good stuff. Disneyland Forward, locals, all that good stuff. Some controversial topics in here, but hey, that's what we do here on the channel. You know what I'm saying? We talk about stuff that not a lot of people really want to dive into, but it is important nonetheless. But George, the Italiano, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There we go. And Mr. Ebba, our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You only had to save a city once today. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. sir.
But the police scanner's going off the hook with you being away, man.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, man. SD, man, there's a lot of activity here, But right now, it's all about the OG show, so that's where I'm at.
Absolutely. And Ebba, if you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
You got it. You can find me on X at Michael Ebba 1991. You can find me on Instagram at Michael Ebba, and then also you can find me here on OG 55, guys, where I have an amazing time with these two awesome, sexy gentlemen. As always, come on, guys, give it up for them. Like and subscribe to them, guys. Let's go.
Yes. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and hit the bell, right? It's funny, we never really do that, huh? We never really do
Yeah, no, we don't.
It's funny. But everybody, thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. We're going to close it out. And hey, you know what? Speaking of closing it out, George, we did a great reaction video yesterday, actually, of Stupid in Love with Youngjin and Max. Which actually ties into our outro because she's the girl with the straw that we use on our outro. But check that out, everybody at home. It was really, really good time. It was fun. If you don't know what song it is, check it out. You might like it. It's actually really, really good.
It's really it's a big deal on TikTok right now with the dance moves and everything. So
yeah,
it's hot. It's definitely. Speaking of hot, you could probably take that away, OG.
No, she is. Oh no. I mean, yeah, there's a song.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. Have a great day, everybody.
세상이 누구에게나 공평하게 추악해.